Welcome to day 5 of our 30 days of daily play challenge, celebrating the daily play, my 365-day art journal to reignite your creative spark. My name is Brittany DeSantis. I'm the artist and author behind your new art journal. And for the last 4 days, we've been experimenting with easing ourselves into developing a creative practice with some written reflections, a little bit of illustration or drawing. And today we are starting a 4-day experiment into what I'm calling making your mark. So this is about getting comfortable with and experimenting with some of the writing instruments that I've recommended for your daily art journaling practice, like a brush pen and a Sakura Micron drawing pen. So I would love for you to grab a couple or a few, like let's say 3 writing instruments if you have them, because today is just all about experimenting with different line widths and making our mark on the page. So I'm just going to be using my brush pen and my Sakura Micron. I might even bring my paintbrush into it a little bit. We'll see. Okay, so our prompt today is to fill this space with diagonal lines. We're going to start by drawing from the bottom to the top. And then we're going to switch corners and draw from the top to the bottom. And it says here, use at least 3 different pens and experiment with using lighter and heavier pressure. Brush pens with a flexible nib are similar to paintbrushes and will give you a wide stroke when you apply a bit of pressure. So I'll get into some of these notes down here in a minute, but let's just put pen to paper and not put any barriers in the way of us just starting here today. So I mentioned a brush pen, and the last few days I've just been using a brush pen just the way that I would with a regular pen, but now I want to actually show you what a brush pen can do and why this is something that I've recommended for your journals. So anytime you're moving in an upward motion, I'm just going to switch to a different one here. This is the Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. Anytime you're moving in an upward motion, you want to apply light pressure and you'll get a really thin line. So one of the first instructions here is we're going to start drawing from bottom to top, and then we'll switch corners. So it doesn't matter how many lines you do, but I just want you to be able to see that you can get a nice thin line when you apply light pressure with a brush pen. So I'm moving in a diagonal motion, and I'm going to keep filling this section. And as you're doing that, I'm going to read out sort of these tips that I've put in the bottom of your page here today. Pay attention to the sensory experience of creating these lines. Slow down and listen to the sound of the tip or the nib of your pen on the paper as you push your lines away from you and then you pull them back. Notice the focus it takes to move slowly and then speed up. Don't worry about making your lines straight. The goal here is to pay attention to something we usually do without thinking. So again, you normally wouldn't think twice about just drawing a line, but now you want to add in that sensory component, which is to slow down and think about the sound the pen is making, even the feel of the paper, which is nice and smooth and thick. Maybe speed up a little bit, see what that does to the line, and you start to lose some ink at the end. The idea is that you're creating a bunch of thin diagonal lines. Now we're going to switch corners. And the really interesting thing about a brush pen is that when you apply pressure, you get a thicker stroke. So you can start at the top here and just cross over these. I'll just show you down here so it's easier for you to see on camera. But I'm going to angle my brush pen. I'm going to put my thumb and index finger on the top, touching that silver line, and my middle finger supporting on the bottom. And I'm going to angle my pen towards my desk so that I can activate the widest part of my brush pen here. And I'm just going to apply pressure to the tip of my brush pen. And that is the exact same pen, but by applying pressure, I get that thicker stroke. So you can see it easier up here. When I do a thin line with light pressure, I get a nice thin stroke. When I move downwards and I apply pressure, I get a thicker stroke. And I love this line width variation for when I'm doing calligraphy, but also drawing, because you get these really fun effects. And it makes it look a little bit more organic. And again, you want to focus on your speed, the sound that the pen is making on the paper. If I move too fast, You can see I lose ink. So I'm going to move nice and slow, paying attention to that sensory experience. And this is why, as you'll read in the introduction and throughout your art journal, writing, drawing, making art, it actually lowers your heart rate. It alleviates symptoms of anxiety. And it forces us to be present in the moment. So this page is all about just making your marks, experimenting with what your writing instruments can do. And I have my drawing pen here. And so maybe I continue with these lines here and I notice the sound that this pen is making on the paper. I notice that I can move a lot faster and still get a nice thin line because this particular pen, the Sakura Micron, it doesn't matter how much pressure you apply, you get the exact same result. So very different than a brush pen. And also similar to a brush pen is a paintbrush. So when you apply pressure to your paintbrush, a round tip paintbrush like I'm using here, you get a thicker line, whereas when you use the tip and you apply light pressure, you get a nice thin line. So make sure that you fill in the dot because you just completed day 5. And I would love to see all of your mark making from day 5 of our 30 days of daily play challenge in our private subscriber chat, or share your results with me over on Instagram as well. We'll see you tomorrow.